What is going on, New York Giants fans? Welcome to another video from Hit Squad Productions. And in this video, I wanted to go over something that's been on my mind. And I think it's a fair question, and I like asking this question because it draws some intriguing points on both sides that I could understand and could kind of get behind. But I think the Giants have to ask themselves a giant question going into this offseason. No pun intended. But I think the question is, where do your priorities lie? As you guys are well aware, with free agency coming up, the Giants have to make a decision on Dalvin Tomlinson and Leonard Williams. While they do have other questions they have to ask themselves, I think the decision on who they bring back between the two, if they can't keep both, will determine how they proceed with the rest of free agency. And I also think that it could potentially change how we draft. Now, looking at Leonard Williams, he had a career year under Patrick Graham. He had 11 and a half sacks. He looked phenomenal this year. There was games where Leonard Williams was a difference maker. You could go back to the Cowboys game. You could go back to when we played Philly. He was a difference maker in those games. And honestly, Leonard Williams deserves to get paid. We're going to get into that a little bit later in the video. Now, Dalvin Tomlinson, on the other hand, he's always been the kind of player that doesn't pop up on the stat sheet, but he pops up when you see him on the field. And I appreciate that. I really do value that. I'm one of those people that I think that stats can be very misleading. I think that I trust my eyes a little bit more than I trust the stats, but numbers don't lie. But it is what it is. I'm very thrilled to have Dalvin Tomlinson on this team because I think that Dalvin Tomlinson is one of those players that he's going to play week in and week out. He's going to give you 100%. You know that he's playing to be a Giant. And what I mean by that is we've had a lot of good players throughout the years, but none of them have been giants. You know what I mean? Staples in this franchise. And I think that Dalvin Tomlinson can be that guy for us. Now, our three most important positions that we need to address this offseason are wide receiver, linebacker, and cornerback. And looking at it, both of these players, honestly, they deserve to be paid. Now, I've been saying for the longest, I'm not in favor for paying Leonard Williams because I think considering the fact that he played very well and had a career year, in my honest opinion, I still believe he was playing for a contract and you can make an argument that he was a product of scheme. However, you got to think that the Giants are at least going to do what they can to bring him back. You traded for this guy. You are dragged by the media. So, of course, you're going to want to try to keep the player that you just got dragged through the mud for. Now, if you don't bring Leonard Williams back, that isn't necessarily a bad thing either. That money could be used on an Allen Robinson or a Kenny Galladay, or if you want to look at it a little bit further, you could get an edge rusher like Matthew Judon, Yannick Ngakoue, Shaq Barrett, just to name a few. Leonard Williams is going to demand about $20 million, so that's a lot of money. Now, bringing Leonard Williams back, I think it'll depend on the cap situation. We don't know where the cap is going to be at exactly, but we believe it's going to be around $175 million. And like I said, Leonard Williams is going to demand around $20 million. Now, the Giants do bring him back. I hope it is on a 3-year deal, but we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Now, the Giants don't have much cap space to work with, and we heard from Dave Gettleman and John Mara that Giants will supply Daniel Jones with weapons, as they should. And now, if you guys remember, or if you don't, the Giants did inquire on Kenny Galladay from the Detroit Lions before the trade deadline this year. Now, he is a free agent this year. He's coming off an injury, so there's definitely some interest there, and it seems like there might even be some room for negotiation. Now, if you ask me, the Giants should do everything they can to keep both Dalvin Tomlinson and Leonard Williams, even if that means not getting another major free agent signing. This defense was ranked top 10 last year, and they're young. They're young, they're growing with each other, and honestly, I think that these players really do fit this scheme. Now, looking at this Giants defensive tackle group, they accounted for 21 of 39 sacks, which was 54%, and the Giants were 12th in total sacks for 2020. Leonard Williams, again, he had 11 and a half sacks. Dexter Lawrence had 4 sacks. Dalvin Tomlinson had 3.5 sacks. B.J. Hill had 1 sack. Austin Johnson had 1 sack. If there is one thing that we know, Dave Gettleman loves his hog mollies. He loves addressing the defensive tackle position, and honestly, it got to a point where our whole entire defense was one giant defensive tackle. That's my honest opinion. That's how many defensive tackles we were freaking getting. Now, the Giants are known for drafting great defensive tackles when you look at Giants history, but when I think of Dalvin Tomlinson, I can't help to think of Linval Joseph. When we drafted Linval Joseph in 2013, he was a solid player for us. Unfortunately, we ended up not keeping him, and he went to Minnesota, and he's been pretty good for them. Now, since we drafted Linval Joseph back in 2013. We drafted Jay Bromley in 2014. Now, if you guys remember, he was pretty decent, but ended up not keeping a roster spot with us. We ended up getting, Snacks Harrison and, Dalvin Tomlinson. But in my honest opinion, Dalvin Tomlinson deserves to be paid, and it's been made clear that he will be a priority in the offseason as he should. He's been our most consistent player on the team. And honestly, that's not even me just saying that on the defensive side of the ball either. I think he'll be more cost effective considering that, like I said, he stated that he loves playing here. And he'd love to take a discount playing here. And if you could cut a player like Kevin Zeitler, maybe make some adjustments on the cap, you'll be able to keep both players, which again, they should honestly do that. I think Dalvin Tomlinson may want around 14 to 15 million. We're just going to have to wait to see what happens. But we do need to try to keep this defense together. Now, the Giants did franchise tag Leonard Williams for $16.1 million just to stay on the team for the 2020 season. Now, Williams ended up being a large contributor to Patrick Graham's defense with 11.5 sacks. But, again, are those sacks misleading? Considering, again, he was playing for a contract, but I'm not going to get into that. Look, if the Giants are going to keep Leonard Williams, I'm not going to be upset about it. He proved that he can be that guy, and hopefully he can continue having the same progress. Now, looking at the situation, I understand, the argument could be made that if Allen Robinson gets franchise tag, or if we get outbid for Kenny Galladay, what would we do? Now, if that were to happen, that leaves Corey Davis, Juju Smith-Schuster, Curtis Samuel, Marvin Jones, Chris Godwin, and AJ Green in the wide receiver market. Now, you could still sign Dalvin Tomlinson and Leonard Williams, and you could go get your Corey Davis and Curtis Samuel on a cost-effective deal. Or at a very worst case, which isn't even a worst case, which I think the Giants should do if they don't pick up a Gregory Rousseau, is they could address the wide receiver position with the 11th overall pick. Now, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Again, I think the Giants should try to bring back both. If they can't, if they had to really pick the two, I really do think that the Giants will try to keep Dalvin Tomlinson. I understand that Leonard Williams, they did trade for him, but I just think that with how the cap is and the price that he's going to want, I just don't see the Giants bringing him back. But again, I wouldn't be surprised either. What are your thoughts? What do you guys think about this? Do you think the Giants should bring back both of them? If not, who are you guys choosing? If you're new to the channel, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, follow us on Twitter. The link will be in the description, and we'll see you guys in the next video.